It's extra drama for book number 46, Decisions. Hi, I am your host, Marissa Flaxbart, and with me still, or again, depending on how you think about it, is Mary Kate Battles. Hi, Mary Kate.
Hi.
Are you mad that I didn't introduce you as my BFF in the main episode? I'm sorry. I should have done that.
I mean, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I get it. You have a lot of BFFs.
You know that
You're
it's
just
true.
Like, you're just one of those people where people always say, like, oh, Marissa's my good friend. And I want to be like, no, bitch, I'm Marissa's good friend.
I don't know if that's true of me, but I love it. And I mean, there's nobody that I have known as closely and continuously as you. You know, I can't call you like my oldest friend if we're just talking about like any kind of friend.
Right.
But in terms of our like continued like best frienditude and closeness, in the main episode you were talking about, you know, when you went off to college, and it's like, I was there, you know, I remember going to visit you in school. I remember, you know, talking to you. I remember you coming to visit me the first year that I was in college, and all the chapters. So that's fun.
Side note, do you remember what happened 5 minutes into me being on your college campus?
Are you talking about the naked run across campus?
Yes.
So at the University of Chicago, where I went to college, there is, I believe, a longstanding winter festival that is, the shorthand of it is that it's called Kuvia. And there are a bunch of different events that are a part of it. And it's basically a way to kind of have some sort of happiness and celebration in winter. U of C is a very kind of serious place, and so its students can be prone to depression, especially during the cold months. I think, honestly, a lot of that is part of the thought that goes into having a festival in the winter, if I'm not mistaken. But one of the events is an event where anybody who wants to, I guess, takes off all their clothes and runs across the quad. And Mary Kate came to visit me in college for the first time, and that was like your first glimpse.
I literally walked under these beautiful historic stone arches at University of Chicago, which, I mean, you know, when you think of University of Chicago, you're like, oh my gosh, the smartest and brightest people are right here. And I was like so excited to be on campus visiting my best friend at this prestigious school. And then there are naked men with tube socks on their dicks, just like running around the quad. And I was
mostly boys that, it's mostly boys, males that participate in this event. Not as a rule, but it tends to be, at least in my time. I don't even know if they still do this, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, not right now, like not in 2020, but if it still continues, it would not shock me. But I have a funny update to that, which is that, so when I came to grad school in California, there was the college here too, and there's something there called the Undie Run that happens every year. And there are a lot of, you know, the Undie Run, like, people run, like, in their underwear, they run across campus, and I was just so, like, and
yeah,
like,
your point.
This is the best you can do, kids. Yeah. Like, you're wearing your clothes, but I think more girls participate in that event than in whatever they called the naked run across the quad, which I can't remember right now.
That's one of my like fondest memories, because I certainly have never seen that many naked people in my life. And I just like, it was just such a weird transition to visiting my best friend in college.
And I don't remember my reaction to it, but at that point in time, I don't know, I was already beginning my transition to being okay with a lot of weirdness.
Yes.
Which is something that I took away from my college experience and carried with me to this day. Mm-hmm. I can be very patient with many eccentric personality traits.
It's one of my favorite things about you, Marissa, is like how you can just like listen to someone be crazy and like just go on with it. That's one thing I love about you.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a good practice, I guess, for life in these times. I had no sense at all that this is what we were going to talk about during Extra Drama, but I hope the listeners are entertained. I was thinking about high school because the Sweet Valley High is a high school and we were both in high school together. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I feel like, that, forgive me if I mean, we can cut this out if you don't want me to say it, but I feel like you were so on top of so much stuff in high school, but like look back on it as with not much fondness. Am I mistaken in that?
I mean, I think I got out of our Northwest Indiana high school what I could, but by the time I left, like I was ready. I was ready to get out of that little universe. I mean, there were people that we went to high school with and we lived a 45-minute train ride from Chicago who had never been to Chicago. And I was so ready, I grew up, and as a first generation American, knew there was a lot more to this universe than Northwest Indiana. And I was ready to go. So I think I got out of it. I did a lot of activities. That's, we did show choir together, a lot of fun things, but I think I was ready to rock and roll when we were done. I think you were too.
Oh, yes, I definitely was. I had been for a long time. I mean, and I lived in the city when I was a little girl and experienced that. And, the thing that you said about the 45 minutes from the city is something that I include a lot in my explanation of what it was to live in the region in Northwest Indiana. It's like it is simultaneously the suburbs, a bedroom town, and small town Indiana. It depends on who you ask. Because my parents took the train into the city every day and they met people that did that. And those were a lot of their friends were people who, were kind of living the suburban lifestyle. But then, yeah, you did meet people whose parents, whose grandparents, had grown up in this town and had deep roots there. And for them, it was, the town was the town. It didn't matter. Its proximity to Chicago was immaterial.
Right. I mean, your dad took the train to Chicago. Both my parents at one point worked in the city. So I think we just had a little different perspective, little wider eyes to things.
I remember a thing that really, really frustrated me growing up in a small town was that everything seemed to close at 6:00, like every business, other than like the fast food restaurants or whatever. And because of that, there were weird things that we did as teenagers late at night. I think the maybe most iconic Northwest Indiana late night thing would be to go to a truck stop.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of truck stops. It's the crossroads of America, people. There were lots of truck stops for semi trucks, and they all have these restaurants in them, and they're open 24 hours. And so you would go and drink your coffee and
we drank so much shitty coffee at truck stops. At like 2 a.m. And like, we were good kids. We weren't bad. We didn't drink and drive. We didn't do any of that. We drank coffee at 2 a.m. at truck stops because that's honestly all that you could do as far as I knew anyways. So that's what we did.
The other thing I remember doing quite a bit was wandering around Walmart, which we had to drive to another town to do that. Like you had to drive 20 minutes or more to get to the Walmart that you could wander around.
Yeah.
But it was open. So we weren't buying things.
Right.
We were just walking. We were just wandering the aisles. So if you live in a town where there are teenagers at your Walmart wandering, one thing that you could do to combat that is to have more things for them to do at night.
Yeah, and we'd go to that Denny's that was right there too, that was in the next town over, because we didn't have something like that in our town.
That sums it up.
And Steak and Shake. Remember
yeah,
Steak and Shake?
Yeah, when that finally opened, that was great. That was a game changer. We had choices of towns we could go to, but not a ton of choices of things to do in the town. It must be so weird or so much different to live in the town once you're over 21 and you could go to bars.
Totally.
Because there are bars.
Yeah. Oh, there are bars. But those were not options for us. And like even the coffee shop, remember that coffee shop we all used to hang out at? They closed at like 4:30. So there was no, late night hanging out.
None to be had, but we made the most of it. And now I have actually found, for whatever reason, during this whole lockdown period, that I have found myself thinking about the town from time to time and kind of thinking about it, with some real fondness. I don't really have family ties there. I'd have it for a long time. I don't know. I guess it's just nostalgia or just the way that the brain is like trying to travel anywhere but the room that I'm stuck in. But yeah, I think it's harder when you feel you're a kid and you feel stuck and there's like the whole world out there like you were describing. That was the similarity that we had. And I think, a lot of my friends, not all, but many of my friends from that time, I think were feeling the same thing.
For sure.
And some of them left and some didn't.
Right. Well, a lot of them still, like you said, have deep, deep family roots there. And now as a parent myself, like having family close by is not only just like a nice feeling, but it can be, especially right now with quarantine, it's like essential to have help and have extra hands. So everybody's got to make their own choices and, staying in your hometown or not staying in your hometown. It's a decision, right? Right, Robin?
Yeah.
Got to make these decisions,
right,
and they're hard. They're hard decisions
and
to
yet, make. Mrs. Wilson desperately wants to send Robin all the other side of the country. But, she just needs that new kitchen.
Well, maybe she just wants her to experience the East Coast.
I think that's true. I mean, one thing that I wish that there had been more time to talk about is just the way that Mrs. Wilson and her sister just seem like they have a really complicated and interesting relationship.
Yes.
And there's a real, money power dynamic at play there for sure. And Robin clocks that. She's like, I think Aunt Fiona just likes to wield her power over us and to test it.
Yep.
And so she decides that she's going to push back about certain things. And Fiona does come to respect that. She comes to be like, Robin, you're just too much like me. And then it weirdly ends up becoming a way that she and her aunt bond on some level, is that the aunt sees some of herself in Robin.
Yep.
Only because Robin's pushing back.
Well, good. I'm glad she found her voice.
Yeah. Well, look at us managing to bring it full circle back to Sweet Valley Diaries, back to Sweet Valley High, number 46. Mary Kate, thank you again so much for reading this book. I'm so glad that things are, this one was easier for you to get through than book 4. And, we'll see if Robin comes back again. I hope you'll consider joining me once more.
I'm a glutton for Robin, so bring me back anytime, Marissa.
Oh, you're going to binge on Robin.
I love it.
All right. Well, I love you. And Gladiators, thank you. We'll see you next week to find out about the Porters. Remember them? There was who was the one that was oh gosh, now I can't remember. There was something with one of the Porter sisters. Oh, she was in love with this guy who was good at science, and she was good at science, and then she proved that science was good, and she was bad at music, so she was trying to drop out of school, like that whole thing. Well, now she has a sister who is good at music. That is the extent of my ability to sum up the Porters right now. So,
but can I say at least they believe in science? That's where we are in 2020.
You can say that. Yeah, and this was 1988, so
they're ahead of their time, believing in science. Those science believers.
Amazing. But this next book is not going to be about science. It's going to be about music.
Even better.
Well, thank you so much, and I'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Except for you, Mary Kate.
No.
Bye.
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 The more time you get to spend with the Wakefields, the better. Let's be real.